It is strange how the person who hurt me the most is still the one I think about, even though we have not spoken in a long time. I thought time would help me forget, but just a song playing randomly in a coffee shop is enough to make my heart tighten. It is not because I'm still in love, but because there is something inside me that I still cannot put down. Old memories do not disappear. They just lie dormant, waiting for a fragile moment to return, and remind me that maybe I still have not truly let go. I used to think I had moved on, that those painful days were just part of a distant past. I kept myself busy, I worked, I laughed and talked with people as if nothing about him remained in my mind. But sometimes in the middle of a sleepless night when my phone lights up and then fades back into silence, I feel a wave of emptiness. Not because I miss him, but because I miss what it felt like to be cared for by someone, even if it was during a time that was all wrong. There are wounds that no longer make me cry, but they still manage to tighten my chest whenever they are mentioned. I no longer talk about it with anyone. I do not want someone telling me I am weak or that I am making myself suffer. I pretend to be okay so well that sometimes I actually believe it. But deep down, I know I am just avoiding the sadness because I am afraid that if I face it head on, I might break. And then I ask myself again, why do I still think about him after everything I've asked myself? That question over and over. Why do I still think about someone who walked away, leaving behind a wound with no clear shape, but one that still stings every time I brush against a memory? I used to think it was because I was still in love. But then I realized true love does not leave you stuck in silent, unclear, and unfair regrets. So then what is it? I started looking deeper into what I carried with me after that breakup. It was not just the pain, but a flood of unanswered questions. Why did they do that? Where did I go wrong? If I had acted differently, would things have turned out another way? I was not just missing a person. I was stuck in a need to be understood, to be acknowledged, to have a clear ending that could tell me I was not completely meaningless in someone else's eyes. But they never gave me that. And I tried to fill in the blanks myself with assumptions, with imagined conversations, with my own explanations, just to stop feeling like I was left without a reason. These thoughts kept looping, not because I could not let go, but because a part of me still had not been comforted. Maybe what has kept me from letting go is not about the other person at all, but about myself, the part of me that was hurt and never told. It is okay to feel this much pain. I still think about them not because they were special, but because the wound they left touched a hidden part of me, a place where I once believed that if I loved enough, if I tried hard enough, I would be chosen to stay. But that never happened. I used to think I had to be decisive, that to move on, I needed to slam the old door shut and not let any memories sneak back into my mind. I blocked all contact, deleted everything related to them, avoided familiar streets, old songs, even phrases that once made my heart skip. But honestly, that did not make me feel free. It only made me more scared when the past suddenly returned. There was a time when I thought I was okay. But then while writing in my journal, I found myself asking the same old questions, ones I had tried so hard not to think about. And when I finally sat down, really sat down, not running from the sadness anymore, I realized I had never truly healed. I was just living as if the wound did not exist. Things began to change when I stopped forcing myself to forget. I allowed myself to remember, but to remember truthfully and gently. To look back not to get stuck, but to better understand the version of myself at that time. A person who once loved wholeheartedly, who trusted deeply, who pushed past exhaustion to hold on to something they believed was important. Someone who did not know their own limits and thought that love meant having to endure. When I rewrote that story, not from the viewpoint of a victim, but as someone who had grown, everything started to shift. I no longer just saw someone who hurt me, but I also saw myself and how I had lost who I was in the hope of being held on to. I cried, but this time not from pain, but from compassion for myself. I wrote a letter I never sent. In it, I did not blame. I did not ask for anything. I did not try to explain. I just said the things I had never had the chance to say, not so they would read it, but so my heart could finally stop holding on to unspoken words. I forgave. Not because they deserved it, but because I no longer wanted to carry that burden with me. And then I began to learn how to return to the present. No longer retreating into the past to look for justice in a story that had already ended. No longer trying to find reasons to justify the pain. Just me, someone who had once been broken, now learning to love herself piece by piece. Not through someone else, not needing validation from anyone. I once believed that to let someone go, I had to forget them completely. But now I understand letting go is not about erasing them. It is about no longer letting them control my emotions. It is when the memories return, and I no longer feel a lump in my throat, no longer blame myself, no longer wish things had gone differently. I started feeling freer on the most ordinary days. There was no big enlightenment moment, just the simple realization that I no longer picked up my phone, hoping to see a message from them. I no longer waited for an apology, an acknowledgement, or anything I once thought I needed to move on. Something inside me has shifted. Just a little, but enough to feel the weight in my heart lift. I no longer see them as the one who was wrong, but simply as a part of my journey. A lesson that was not pleasant, but necessary to teach me about boundaries, self-worth, and the kind of love I truly deserve. I have learned to care for myself as if I am the most important person in my life because I am. Not to prove anything to anyone, but because I do not want to repeat a kind of love that costs me my peace just to keep someone else around. And the strange thing is, when I stopped searching for a different ending to that old story, I finally found a new beginning for myself. Now, sometimes they still show up in my mind. No warning, no reason, just passing through like an old wisp of smoke. But it no longer hurts, and I am no longer afraid. I just smile not because of the good memories, but because I am no longer the same person I was back then. I do not have to be strong all the time. I just need to be honest with myself. And in that honesty, I have learned how to let go without trying, how to remember without being stuck. Maybe that is what people mean when they talk about healing. I do not know who needs to hear this, but if you are carrying an unnamed ache in your heart, be a little gentler with yourself. You are not wrong for still thinking about someone who once hurt you. That is not a sign of weakness. It is a message from your heart that you need to be heard. And you deserve peace even if no one else gives it to you, but yourself.